Hello friends, to talk about all the upcoming spring films, I've assembled a crackerjack team of Hollywood reporters to talk everything that is coming up on the big screen. To start off with, I have a question posed to everyone. What do you think will be the first big hit this coming season?
3 words. Bond, James Bond. You know, I mean, I think that it's Daniel Craig's last outing, so people are definitely looking forward to that. We've got a couple of strong female characters that have been teased as being perhaps the new 00s. And so, you know, I think that'll be a hit no matter what.
But before that, we have Mulan in April. We got Invisible Man, which I'm looking forward to, actually. I heard that's kind of going to be scary.
We have Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey. That's going to be the first hit. That's going to be the first hit of the year.
Okay, I feel like I gave you the answer to everybody here.
Well, that's also 3 words, so technically you could just be like 3 words, and then I said Birds of Prey.
Okay. 2020 is a big year for female directors. We have Kathy Yan with Birds of Prey. We have Reed Morano with the rhythm section, and we also have Nikki Caro with Mulan out in just the first few months of 2020. What does it mean to start off the decade with so many women helming big budget films?
I think what's notable here is that A, they're big films. These are big studio tentpoles in the case of especially something like Mulan, but also they're genres that are traditionally not ascribed to women, right? The stereotype is that women make very small, either domestic dramas or rom-coms. And so now with these, you know, all 3 of these films are very heavy with huge action set pieces. They tackle a variety of genres. I mean, this spring alone, you'll see women tackling horror, women tackling, you know, superhero action, historical epics. It's the gamut. And so that's promising because you can't have more jobs for women unless you, you know, sort of consider them for all possible movies.
Problem solved, right?
Okay, Borys.
Okay. No,
Borys.
but legit question though.
Yeah.
So if one of these or a couple of these movies don't work,
Yeah.
what do you think will be the reaction? Because, you know, there's criticism sometimes that even if a male director makes a movie that fails, he fails upward and gets another gig. And that doesn't always happen with a woman director. Like, you know, Aeon Flux director, she
Right.
did that movie, bombed, didn't work for, you know.
Karen Kusama, director jail for like over a decade.
Yes. So do you think
Yeah.
that could still happen, or are we beyond that point?
That's a great question. I think that we're not safely beyond that point quite yet. You know, I think that when Wonder Woman was a hit, you know, people were saying like with Patty Jenkins, it was treated a little bit as a novelty, and they gave interviews. Patty Jenkins was really aware that if Wonder Woman bombed, it wouldn't just be a personal setback for her, but she would be used as an example, as a rationale to not hire women. That happens anytime that you're sort of not in the dominant category. So when if Josh Trank fails at something, or Colin Trevorrow, that's ascribed as an individual failure. But as long as we're still focusing on like, oh, this is the first woman director, or this is the first, you know, Asian male director, like that's still going to be sort of a little bit scary. They're going to be lumped into the same category.
Disney has been making a lot of live action films, remakes of classic animated films, and they seem to have cracked a code kind of, at least financially. These films are very successful. We had Aladdin and Lion King both making over $1 billion last year. Does Mulan have a chance of outperforming either of those 2 films?
I think it does, partly because the China factor. You know, they've been really, really careful to cater to that Chinese audience with sort of, you know, trailers and specialized marketing materials tailored that. It kind of helps, I wouldn't say it like necessarily helps publicists here in the US, but the fact that the lead actress, Crystal Liu, has made comments supporting the Chinese government, you know, is going to really endear her to the market over there. And so I think with the 2 biggest box offices in the world alone, I think that movie is pretty much set. It also helps that Mulan, it really looks like a fresh reimagining of, like when the trailer came out, it looks like a movie that's well served by the live action transition in a way that maybe even Lion King seems somewhat redundant to some people.
I think it will do like amazing, maybe $1 billion, but I don't think it'll reach the same levels as those other films. So what does that mean? Like
900 million.
900 million. I think it'll do amazing business and will be a huge feat, but like I don't think it's gonna reach Lion King proportions. That, although I think it would be amazing if it did. That's my box office projections. Close, but not quite.
Okay, loser buys lunch.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Bond. This is the last time we're going to see Daniel Craig as Bond, and then who knows what the future holds for the character. What do you want to see from this installment? And then also, what is next for the Bond franchise after Daniel Craig hangs up his blonde Bond?
I want to see how Rami Malek does. I think he's born to play a villain, so that will be a good sort of turn for him. But I really like Cary Fukunaga as a director, so it's nice to see how, and we've had Sam Mendes for the last several installments, so it's just nice from that filmmaking standpoint to see how he approaches it differently.
Bond has to now compare to movies like the Mission Impossible movies, which you have Tom Cruise, who is willing to put himself out there, whether it's like on the edge of a building,
literally holding onto an airplane.
Yeah, exactly. And he'll break his leg jumping from one building to another. You can see it on screen. And that brings a whole different level of authenticity. And also those movies are constructed so precisely that it's a movie within a movie within a movie. For a long time, Bond has struggled to come up with that kind of level. And this one actually does look like it could with some of the stuff that we've seen in the trailers. But that, I think, is very key.
I think what's cool about this one is to have Billie Eilish sing the title song is such a huge deal, because that shows that they recognize that the one piece that's missing is this younger demographic who have not grown up across these 67 films like I have as a 67-year-old man. But I think to show that they're targeting a younger demographic is super smart. Just give Billie Eilish the James Bond role. She could do it. I'm just kidding. But I think to energize that franchise, they're gonna go for somebody younger who can age through the franchise. I personally would like to see maybe a little bit more humor. The older Bonds, it was a bit cheekier, and I think Daniel Craig brought a certain gravitas, which I loved, and I love him as James Bond, and I will miss him, and I'll miss those Speedo shorts that he wore. But I think people of today's day and age, the superhero movies are great because they don't take themselves that seriously, and there's always a little bit of humor mixed up with the heart.
And Bond used to do that.
Yeah.
Bond used to do that.
Let's look forward to some films that are in production right now. One of the ones that's coming up that has the most hype around it is The Batman, with Robert Pattinson starring as Batman. This film has a crazy cast. There's lots of big stars in it. What are your predictions for this film? And then also, which one of these castings has been your favorite? Because there are a couple curveballs in there.
I have no predictions because it is such a bonkers cast, and the reason why I say that is because it's all very much cast against type. I mean, for one thing, Robert Pattinson as Batman, I never in a million years would think that he would take that kind of role. I'm very intrigued by Colin Farrell playing the Penguin because for a long time, wasn't it like Jonah Hill?
We had Danny DeVito as the quintessential Penguin.
Right? So to pivot from it was,
Or
right?
Seth Rogen.
Yes, those guys in talks, and then to be like, well, we couldn't get them. Let's go with Colin Farrell. So that's just going to be, no matter what, it's going to be a new interpretation, especially since this is the third or fourth iteration of Batman and all these characters in just the past decade or so, and I'm including the TV versions. It'll just be nice to see a new take, and Matt Reeves and what he's going to do, with that whole franchise.
I think it's gonna be a hit. I'm into, as the resident Cracker Jack gay guy, I say I'm just stoked for Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I think it's gonna be great, but I do think it's gonna be amazing because Robert Pattinson, he may not have had the huge breakout success that he had with Twilight, but he's made amazing, interesting choices, and all of his films have challenged him in a different way. I think he'll be great in this role, and I think all of those people that we've been talking about are all amazing actors. Colin Farrell is doing his best work at this point in his life, and there was probably a time in his life where he could have been or should have been Batman. And and Jeffrey, right? He's amazing. So it's some real actors.
It's going to be interesting to see what kind of take they have to make it a more grounded, yet still keep it super heroic, because that's what they're trying to find, that balance of the Christopher Nolan ones and to where they are now. So I think to see where the tone ultimately lands is going to be interesting.
Teen Batman. We'll close it off with one other forward-looking question. What projects currently in production are you the most excited to see?
Well, Batman's in production, and so is Venom 2. And there's a connector here, and that's Andy Serkis, because Andy Serkis is directing Venom 2. It also starring or co-starring in the Batman, so he's traveling between sets.
Wow.
Or will be.
There's a film that I think is actually in post because it's coming out at the end of the spring, and it's a horror movie. So I'm surprised I'm saying this. I know, but Antebellum. you know, the Lionsgate Blumhouse. And the reason I'm saying that that'll be interesting is I think that that might be the sleeper of the spring. It's a horror movie starring Janelle Monáe, and based on the trailer, it kind of takes place in two timelines, right? Like kind of antebellum, you know, slavery era South, and then like sort of modern day. And I just think to have, you know, again, a black female protagonist, something that is probably obviously going to touch on race relations and the history of slavery in America, and, you know, released by the same people who did Get Out and Us. I think it could definitely be one of those like crossover horror hits that will get horror haters like myself into the theaters just to see what they have to say about the whole thing. So I'm excited about Antebellum, and I can't believe I'm saying that about a horror movie.
We've swayed you.
I know.
Since there's cameras rolling right now, I'm just most excited for this production to hit the airwaves. Summer 2020.
Well, thank you very much to the three of you, Borys, Rebecca, and Chris. I really appreciate you joining us and talking about all the upcoming films in the first half of 2020. There's a lot of great stuff coming to theaters. But we also want to know what you think, so let us know what your most anticipated film of the first half of 2020 is right down there in the comments.